Music. I listen to it, you listen to it, that one hipster who still uses LimeWire despite the creation of Spotify listens to it. I think we can all agree that music is pretty sick, man, and anyone who doesn't think that is either too negative about everything and needs to chill the fuck out, or they're a YouTube commenter who thinks they're the first to have thought of that joke 5 people before them already wrote. Music is something that can both bring people together and simultaneously divide them, while they argue if the Uno or Dos album from Green Day is better, when they should be talking about how it spelled the downward spiral for the band. And no, this video isn't about Green Day, I just like putting in dumb music scenarios when it fits my point. Whatever point I was trying to make, the one part of music that everyone can agree on is some songs are just so catchy, it's impossible to get them out of your hand. Few bands have been able to capture the power of the earworm well, but one band from the early 2000s showed just how powerful it really was. Tell me, how many of you know these little phrases?
Hey mama, I got a feeling. Let's get it started. And pump it louder. Dirty bitch. My hump. I just can't get enough.
Shut up, just shut up, shut up.
I'ma be.
No, don't funk with my heart.
Boom, boom, boom. Gotta get that.
Baby, no, don't lie. Where is the love? Can you meet me halfway?
Yeah, that's quite a few different hooks and small phrases most 2000s kids know well, because they were everywhere. If there was one band who knew how to leave an impact in your mind, it was the Black Eyed Peas, and their lead man/producer, Will.I.Am, who I say I refuse to call Will.I.Am out of respect for myself, but I will continue calling throughout this video just because it's shorter. Along with Will, his best weapon to get a tune stuck in your head was one Stacey Ferguson, aka Fergie. If anyone remembers the Black Eyed Peas, it's most likely for their club jams like I Got a Feeling and Boom Boom Pow, and overall not having a discography that holds up well in retrospect. Don't get me wrong, this band is one of the best-selling in the history of recording artists with over 75 million sales, comparable to bands like Nirvana and Kiss, but in the music industry among critics, it was kind of the common thought that the Black Eyed Peas were idiots. Oh, they're just a bunch of soulless hacks who made their way up through occasional good songs and catchy lyrics and bait with cocaine attached to it. They're just another cash grab. That's the kind of stuff I can find when talking about the Black Eyed Peas' late 2000s music. Another criticism I would always hear is how much better they used to be before Fergie. Wait, JS, what are you talking about? There was no band before Fergie showed up. On the first day, Fergie gave light to the music industry by unleashing the Peas upon us. Technically, you're correct about the first part. They weren't the Black Eyed Peas before Fergie. Back then, they were a more hipster Black Eyed Peas. If you don't understand, I mean that after Fergie, they added the to the title. Before Fergie, they were an obscure bohemian rap group that were critically acclaimed for their flows and social commentary. JS, you're so funny. The band that made My Humps was liked for social commentary? The only thing they could comment on is how great this party is. Yeah, that's what I thought as well when I first found this out. They did come back in the past year, so why don't I explain how this group had one of the most interesting histories of musical evolution, or de-evolution, and re-evolution. Let's talk about Black Eyed Peas, both unironically and ironically to an extent. Will.I.Am and Alan Pineda have been friends since middle school. They had a rap duo together and eventually got scouted by Eazy-E's music company, Ruthless Records. Originally, they became part of a group called Atbang Clan, meaning a tribe beyond nations, with multiple other members, going under the names Will1X and Apple Diab. They made an album together, but for some reason it was shelved before release. The group then got dropped from their label in 1995 following Eazy-E's death, and moved to Interscope Records as Black Eyed Pods. After adding their friend Jamie Gomez and singer Kim Hill, they renamed themselves Black Eyed Peas and recorded their first major record to actually have a release, Behind the Front. Right away, the Peas were showered with praise for recording and playing with a live band, along with their general laid-back attitudes and lyrics. Their best social commentary song on this album was, I think, Karma, a song that just has this infectious beat and seamless flowing lyrics about the repercussions of bad actions and recent events at the time like the deaths of Biggie and Tupac. The entire album, for the most part, is fun, chill, self-aware, and gives each member a good chance to shine and show off their skills. Believe it or not, there was a time when Will.I.Am didn't start every song with Fergie singing in the background, and then maybe the other two will get a verse. There's like a 33% chance. In fact, in the first song of the album, Falling Up, Will performs last and doesn't have as big a verse as the other two. Back then, Will.I.Am, Apple and Taboo were all just as recognizable as one another. Speaking about Will.I.Am's name change for a second, though, Will1X sounds much less dumb to me. His rap name is like if I had the rap name B. Rax Ton. Technically, they both mean something when read with pauses, but grammatically neither work well and sound instead cheesy and dumb. Just wanted to get that off my chest since it's been on my mind a while, but yeah, the album is well mixed, has good backup singing from Kim Hill, the lyrics are fun, and overall it's just really jammable. Unfortunately for the Peas, despite their critical acclaim, they charted almost nowhere. Behind the Front barely made it to the top 200 albums of the week in America and France, where they are weirdly popular. With that in mind, the crew went in to make their second album, known by the title Bridging the Gap. Bridging the Gap is mostly the same energy as the last album. It has some standout features from artists like Estero and 2 Chainz LA, but other than that, it's also somewhat more experimental than the last album, while still keeping the same general tone of Behind the Front. This album was marginally bigger than the first record, but it was still far from mainstream success. Then, to make the situation more complicated, Kim Hill left the group on concerns Interscope was trying to make her image too sexual, leaving the Peas short of one female backup vocalist. Going into 2003, the Peas decided to change their name from Black Eyed Peas to The Black Eyed Peas. Seemingly, it wasn't a substantial change. They just added a fourth word to the name for it to be easier to say. Unbeknownst to the Peas at the time, that same kind of insignificant-looking change to their group would spell a completely different era for them, both in relations to their audience and critics. In that same pivotal year, the gang got a brand new backup female vocalist, an at the time unknown singer named Stacey Ferguson, or simply Fergie. For their first song together, the Peas decided to stay slightly political while giving a more mainstream sound in a song called Where's the Love. Now say what you want about this song. You can say its lyrics are cheesy sometimes, but the beat is good, the message is worth listening to, and the song still resembles the Peas' roots, even if it's intentionally made to be more accessible to mainstream audiences. That's sort of why they got Justin Timberlake on it. The other singles on the album, like Shut Up and Let's Get It Started, aren't quite as potent, but they're fun, even if the lines are somewhat basic in the former. Oh, you're cheating on me. Why are you so invasive about my privacy? I'm not cheating on you, but maybe I am. This album was the beginning of Will.I.Am going first most of the time, but the other two at the least still had similarly sized roles at this point. Moving away from the music of the album itself, let's look at the numbers and how well this album did financially. For reference, Behind the Front made just about 200,000 sales with no top 40 hits, and Bridging the Gap made 260,000 sales with one song making it to number 23 on the top 100. Elephunk is shown to have made only around 200,000 sales. In Germany. In the US, they sold 3.2 million albums and overall sold 9 million units. That's over 36 times as large as their last album, not to mention having all 4 of that album's singles being top 40 hits. This meteoric rise was, I think, in part due to 3 major changes in the group and their music. The first change was obviously the addition of Fergie. Kim Hill is a good singer and backup vocalist, but she doesn't have a really commanding presence. Fergie was able to show through her voice and in the music videos that she demanded the attention of the audience and demanded people to listen. It doesn't hurt that her voice is pretty unique on its own. The second change was their more mainstream sound. The older discography of Black Eyed Peas is well produced and great for the tone they were going for, but that kind of laid-back bohemian rapping was never popular with the mainstream crowd other than in small bursts of top 40 hits every blue moon. Elephunk included songs with either much softer or much more aggressive beats that more easily stick in your head. Instead of having hooks like Get Original or Ain't No Running from Karma, which can make you think about what the song is trying to say, they stuck to more simple hooks like Let's Get It Started, Hey Mama, Shut Up, lines that give you a good feeling what the song is about without needing you to think any deeper than the bass line. Not only were the hooks simplified, the actual rapping was marginally slowed down with simpler words for mainstream audiences to keep up with easier. The only song that didn't follow the 2 changes previously mentioned was their most popular song, Where's the Love, but that's for a different reason entirely. Besides having Justin Timberlake feature on that song, this was a song targeting what was going on in America with the Iraq War and the Bush administration. You'd have to be there to remember, which I wasn't, but those kinds of political songs about what was going on at the time were huge whether they were good or bad. The best example I can think of is American Idiot, which came out the year after Where's the Love. Nonetheless, it was a much bigger hit than the band had ever had before, so the best thing for them would be to go more mainstream if they wanted to continue their success. Over the next 2 years while touring, the Peas wrote and recorded their next several songs for their upcoming upcoming album, Monkey Business. Out of all their albums, I'd say Monkey Business was the first album where it started becoming apparent that they weren't the same band they'd been the past several years. Looking at the singles, each has most of the same flaws as the other. Pump It is a song everyone has heard at some point, whether on the radio or at a sports game. The production with that Pulp Fiction sample is so iconic and memorable, and even that yelling is really hard to get out of your head. This song is annoying. The screaming, the constant bragging about themselves, it really gets on my nerves, but the hook is so good, it should be given to a better song. Don't Lie is a song about cheating and not being faithful to your girl. Again, the hook and beat is amazing despite Fergie's somewhat irritating fake accent. None of the verses are especially interesting, mostly just saying unspecific and overused things with their lyrics, but I don't hate this song. The same thing can be said about Don't Funk With My Heart. It's about thematically the same thing, being faithful to your partner and trying to find love, but the beat on this song is more like retro late 70s music. Lyrics are better than Don't Lie, but it isn't that much better. There is much worse on this album if you've listened to it before, and that's the atrocity called My Humps. I haven't had as bad of an experience listening to something since I heard Little Dicky. It's catchy as hell, but I can't like this shit. The song is too repetitive, and Fergie's ego makes me cringe in horror. Will.I.Am said he wrote this song in 5 minutes while he was thinking about a girl. That's a problem this entire album has, an air of overconfidence and outright arrogance. Throughout the entire listening experience, I kept hearing, yeah, we're famous now, so if you want to hate on us, check the record numbers. It's the kind of album that states we've gotten too big to care about writing good lyrics, but you'll eat this shit anyway because it's so damn catchy. This is also around the time Taboo and Apple started moving into the background more to save extra space for Will.I.Am and Fergie. In the music video for Don't Lie, you can visibly see the two are farther away from the camera, and I think this shot shows the band's dynamic around that time pretty well. When you say Black Eyed Peas, if you weren't a fan of them, you could probably still name Will.I.Am and Fergie, because not only do they have the Peas, both of the two have released their own somewhat successful solo albums. Will.I.Am was even a producer on several of Fergie's songs for her albums, so he just bolstered himself further into the public zeitgeist. Taboo and Apple only have the band and a few singles outside of the Peas to show. Having Will.I.Am or Fergie always do the first verse doesn't help their case either. People wonder why Taboo and Apple moved to the background, and though I can't see the exact reason, it could just be that Will.I.Am wanted him and Fergie to be the big selling points and just have the others, just be there, be the hype man, be the guys that go like, yo, and do all the backing vocals.
You know what Fergie was originally there to do?
Can't say it didn't hurt the album just a bit. The only songs I can point to and say I liked were Like That and Gone Going. Like That is another yeah, we're great song, but it has some good features from CeeLo Green and John Legend. Plus, it doesn't feel quite as douchey as the other bragging songs. Gone Going was so refreshing because it's a song about a guy selling out his music and making songs about his material possessions that get his fans to turn on him since they can't relate. It's also about being content with mediocrity and how after losing your money you'll be almost nothing. This song is so surreal to me because not only is it one of the only Black Eyed Peas songs with an actual story, it's that Will.I.Am seems to be writing about the band and what he thinks might happen to them in the future if they get more extreme. Remember that Adam Sandler movie Funny People where he plays a washed up middle-aged retired stand-up comedian turned bad movie star? This is the song equivalent of that. And guess what? He was somewhat right. Monkey Business sold another 9 million units and was a huge success, though critics were much more harsh with this album. I'd say this is the worst album by the Peas, with only one even comparing, but before that album came their best-selling album, the E&D, meaning The Energy Never Dies. E&D was a big deal when it came out. The singles from this album swept the nation like no album has before, and possibly won't for a very long time. The Peas hadn't released an album in 4 years, and with that time they decided to take a new direction by leading a new genre of rap mixed with techno. This album was much more focused on sounding futuristic, tons of synth, voice mixing, auto-tuning, the kind of stuff we look back on and think, oh wait, maybe that wasn't a great idea. Before I get into the songs, I need to show just how big this album was. The band sold over 11 million units with this album, and that was only going up to 2011. Who knows how much they've sold by now. Their first song, Boom Boom Pow, topped the charts for 12 weeks and was only beaten by themselves with I Got a Feelin'. I Got Got a Feelin' was at the top of the charts for an additional 14 weeks, meaning they occupied the top 2 spots for a consecutive 26 weeks. That's longer than Old Town Road was at the top of the charts. I Got a Feeling is the most successful iTunes release of all time at 7 million units sold. I'm a Bee also topped the charts when it was released, and was the song to take down Kesh's TikTok, another inescapable song at the time. They were the first band in over 20 years to have 3 consecutive #1 hits from a single album. Over half of this album is top 40 hits, so how does this album stand? It's a really mixed bag. I Got a Feeling is an admittedly irresistible party jam that you would need to try to hate, it's that likable. Meet Me Halfway is one of the best songs from the Peas I've heard since Elefunk. Fergie is great, Will.I.Am doesn't perform first, though that isn't much of a factor to how good it is, and the instrumentals are atmospheric as all hell. Boom Boom Pow, on the other hand, is a adulty, awkward mess of bragging about having something. The production is infectious as always, but the lyrics are just the Peas each saying they have that boom boom boom. What is that boom boom boom? They never specify. I'm a Bee doesn't fare much better. Again, they're bragging about how great they are and what they're gonna be. At some point, Will.I.Am compares himself to a sperm bank.
I'ma be a bank, I'll be loaning out semen.
I don't know, but we all know the joke associated with the song. The Peas are singing about how much they want to be bees. It's dumb, don't worry about it. Most of this album is just party music. I don't feel like covering it because I just sort of repeat myself. Party All Night is a decent song to jam to, Ring-a-Ling is more annoying. That's all I can say, and that's all I'll probably be able to say for the other songs. After the success of E&D, the Black Eyed Peas released their next album only a year after, this time a prequel album called The Beginning. Ironically, it was not only their last album with Fergie, it was their last album period for 8 years. The hiatus might have something to do with the lackluster sales this album got in comparison to the gang's previous ventures. The Beginning only sold 3 million units, still big, but not nearly as big as any of their past 3 albums. Looking at their singles for this album, they weren't quite as strong as the E&D. I have many songs I dislike on that album, but they have powerful songs with great beats, and I didn't feel that was as prominent in this album. The lead single, The Time Dirty Bit, has an exceedingly obnoxious beat that just makes me feel uncomfortable. I can understand what they were going for, but this song does not have replayability and sounds like a bunch of clashing ideas all thrown into a blender. It doesn't help with that weird sample that they got. The other songs, Just Can't Get Enough and Don't Stop the Party, are just generic. One is about how your love is my drug, and when I'm with you, it's like you're a shady dealer in a back alley. The other is about partying, nothing else to it. The rest of the album wasn't quite as overly synthy, but the auto-tuning was much more noticeable, and Will.I.Am decided for this album to add a dumb announcer go, "This is Mega Switch Up," or "This is Mega Love Song," for no reason. Fashion Beats is alright as yet another dance track, nothing too stand out though. What did stick out to me was the song Love You Long Time. I'm baffled they chose this as a title since it comes from Full Metal Jacket when a Vietnamese prostitute is offering herself to a soldier. Why you would want that linked to your music group is beyond me. After that, the Peas were mostly silent. Will.I.Am went on as a judge for The Voice Australia in 2014 that he would end up winning. Apple was a consistent judge on The Voice Philippines for 2 seasons. Taboo became the global ambassador for the American Cancer Society after beating testicular cancer and releasing a single, and Fergie released her second solo album before destroying the national anthem.
That a flag was still there.
In 2015, the Peas showed their first signs of coming back with their first true rap song in years called Yesterday. Believe it or not, this song doesn't start with Will.I.Am, and it's the first song they'd released in years without Fergie. It was decent overall. After that, they made a redone version of Where's the Love, and I'm sorry, but this ain't it, Chief. Was there a reason you couldn't have made a new single instead of ruining one that was perfectly fine to begin with? Oh, no wait, this isn't Where Is the Love, it's #Where Is the Love! God, I hate when musicians make their songs hashtags. It's immediately tacky and dated. This song is just a watered-down, corporate version of the same song. Putting in a bunch of celebrities only makes the song feel even more like a charity single like We Are the World. I don't even dislike charity singles that much, but in comparison to the first version, this feels so shallow and empty. I appreciate the message, but this song is so much shittier this way. After that song, they finally came back in 2018 with the album Masters of the Sun Volume 1 and multiple singles. What was most interesting about this album was not only did they remove Fergie, they referred to themselves once again as Black Eyed Peas without the obviously stating that they were going back to their roots as artists. And did it pay off? Only kind of. Masters of the Sun Volume 1 is just okay as an album. The contrast in this album is the beats are amazing most of the time, but on the opposite side of the coin, the lyrics seem empty on songs like Forever and Get Ready. Of the songs given, the best ones I could hear were Forever and Constant. Back to Hip Hop was decent, but Nas was sleeping through his feature, and they didn't use the sample they had to the fullest. They repeat a song with the hook of Back to Life, Back to Reality, but they cut off the other half, so it's just Back to Life, and it could have been used much further to help with the song if the Peas chose to. Get Ready and Forever, again, have great old 90s hip-hop beats, but Get Ready's lyrics are pretty meaningless. Ring the Alarm had that annoying hook of, wake up, ring the alarm, with that high voice that gets on my nerves every time. If there was one thing I didn't think Black Eyed Peas would do, it's make conspiracy theories about the government keeping the cure for AIDS and cancer hidden. Apple and Taboo's verses about a constricting society and the failed education system are better, but Will's verse is just so laughable. The last song of this album, Big Love, is the Peas' attempt at making a modern version of Where Is the Love without ruining Where's the Love. They even put love in the title. While I wouldn't say Big Love is nearly as good as Where Is the Love, the song is pretty decent, and like always, the production is great. And the lyrics have more to do with the tragedies going on in America and trying to help people in those bad scenarios. Overall, this album is just alright. It's on the higher side of Black Eyed Peas albums considering the last three, but they still have a ways to go before reaching their best that they were at way back in the 90s. And the ingenious bit about these new albums is the Peas are filthy rich by now, and since they don't have to make soulless music about partying all the time, they can just sit back and return to the music they liked to do before. Will that Volume 2 of Masters of the Sun ever come out? Maybe, maybe not. The only definite I need is never talking about the solo albums of the individual members. You couldn't pay me to talk about those in retrospect. Thanks for watching, I'll see you all later, goodbye.